The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 2, title Infected, and this episode is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Even though there is a couple things in this episode that I just felt, one was a little bit over the top for me, that I felt like you just don't need it. That just that moment, I'm like, you could easily cut that out and still have that scene fully played out. But there's also the first 10 minutes, which I just couldn't care about. Now, I am going to dive into spoilers, mainly because for me, I know what's around the corner. There isn't much speculation that I can go like, oh, I have a speculate. Well, I can't speculate because I know what happens. I know how The Last of Us ends, and I know how The Last of Us Part 2 ends because I have played the games. In a way, I know that the Titanic sinks, if you know what I mean. So, if you haven't played the games because you're a gamer, or just it's just, yeah, I mean, you're not a gamer, or it's just not a game that you have played. It's on your your playlist. Just have it come around to it. Watch the episode and then come back and hear my thoughts. That's what I recommend. Okay, I really, because last week me trying to dodge spoilers, I felt like I didn't get the first episode its fair due because I didn't talk about this, I didn't talk about that, I didn't talk about this, I didn't talk about this, and this, or try and be very coy about it. And for me, I was like, no, I really want to just dive into it and talk about the things I like and didn't like in a good amount of detail. And if that includes me spoiling it, includes me spoiling and talking about episode 3, 4, all the way to 9, because I know the events, So, come back, watch the episode, come back and then hear my thoughts, and then see you next week kind of thing. But the things... As I said, this whole episode is fantastic, even though I didn't like a couple of things. The number one thing I didn't really care about a lot was the first 8 minutes, where we are in 2003, and we are in Indonesia, and the surgeon is sent to a surgery room to check on this affected person. And even though there's a cool show of she grabs a knife, cuts the leg a little bit, opens the tissue, and instead of seeing all the flesh and all the stuff that is normally in our body, it's plants. There's like a garden in there versus the flesh and the blood and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat. I kind of like that. But honestly, for me, The Last of Us is not about the zombies. It's about a broken man trying to, in a way, reconnect and trying to basically trying to bring back something that was lost to him. And the zombie apocalypse is just its painting. It's just its setting. So doing the classic, what's the origins? How did we get these, these versions, these fungus zombies around? And I'm like, I don't really care. Let's go back to 2023. I naturally I think we're going to get some more flashbacks and some more origin stuff and all that. But honestly, I just don't find that interesting. And it could easily be Neil Druckmann and Craig Mason felt like, hey, maybe the gamers ain't going to be that interested of it. Maybe the fans ain't going to be interested of it. But I think the average goer might be a little bit like, to get into the world and get into the world of The Last of Us, they kind of need to know everything and how things are done. And, I find the mystery of how the zombies were done outside, it's fungus, is not, for me, isn't needed, personally. My personal opinion. I'll talk about the second bit that I was like, okay, that's a little bit over the top. Just cut that bit out. Yeah, it's all great. But the rest of the episode, and I'll talk about it later because I'm going to combine it. My thoughts of the scene in general. But I think the rest of the episode is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And if you're curious about how far of the game we are, what do you say, guys? 80 minutes? hour in. So in a way, it's kind of like an hour per episode if you really think about it. So yeah, I was like an hour in, and it's just Ellie, Tess, Joel in the city of Boston, and going through the city and trying to go to the the courthouse, to the courthouse, and they are just dodging, and it's essentially, this episode is all about world building. It's not world building of like we get zombies, all kind of stuff, but it's also setting the world of how does the affected operate. What do these affected look like when it's been year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 years? What do they look like? And they look like the clickers, which are the big, like, mushroom looking, infected people that Joel, Tess, and Ellie were chasing around and trying to get away with, which was a really well action sequence. It's a little bit on the shaky cam, but I think what it is sometimes with running scenes, they kind of, and definitely inside the whole of John Will, the thriller aspect of things, is that they really want, the shaky cam sometimes can a sense of dread. Like, even like the cameraman's like, oh my god, we need to quickly get out of here. Like, it's, it's that whole thing. But sometimes I'm like, just go on dolly, just, get the biggest dolly track you could ever had, and just like pan across and pan backwards, pan across and pan backwards, pan across and pan backwards, slide it forward, slide it back. And it doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long at all, because I put a dolly on track. But that scene was fantastic, and the whole episode is tense. The moment that we enter into this, like, clearly it's meant to be like a hotel, and I feel like it is taking a set that's meant to be, well, in the game it's halfway through in the hotel, and then just merge it into the Boston set, because my guess is like, look, we're not going to go through like 45 buildings and have the characters crouch a lot, or the characters are going to be looking at bits and bolts and for repairs and upgrades. I did jokingly said, like, when Joel and Tess was like, checking, looking at their guns and opening their bags and getting their flashlights, I was like, you know what? Make sure you get your tape. Get ready for your band-aids, and you can wall yourself up to heal yourself up, and get your flashlights and upgrade, and get your weapons going, and do all that kind of stuff. Get your shivs in case there's a clicker, which is the clicker is there, so you can shiv them in the neck. You could always have that. Naturally, you'll get gaming jokes, of course, with people who have played the games, but the whole episode is tense, and that's the one word. Like, so many times, like, when Ellie speaks, I'm like, shut up. It's like, Ellie, do you want all three of you to die? Because I don't want all three of you to die. I just know that one of you are going to die. By when the sun rises. I think I got a little bit more annoyed with Ellie, just whispering, when a clicker was around, just more than Joel does in this episode, because I'm like, because you just know, because this whole, it's tense, even when there's downtime, you're like, it's grounded, it's tense. Even though, and the clicker designs, yes, it's way out of the games. It's way out of the games, 100%, and they look great. The clickers sound, the moment they start doing that, I'm like, no. Even though, funny, Joe did my method. of how they were click. I punched the shit out of them, and it didn't work. That's literally my, with playing, part 1, that's literally my method. It's less of the shooting and crouching, it's more, punch the clickers in the face. Just punch them in the face and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, but yeah, it's a well-being. It's a well-being for the affected. And it works in that well, and the tense of it, and the performances are great. But if you're going to talk about what's the highlight, who's the highlight performance, it's Tess. Because knowing that it's the final episode that we're going to see this character, and she's only in the episode, she's only in two episodes, they give her so much meat to give the actress. Give her. They give like emotions and reactions and performance size of the character that you don't get from the game. Like you just maybe find out about her. Like literally, she doesn't act strange until she tells Joe and Ellie that, oh, I got bitten. And her walking out of the museum, I'm like, yep. I'm like, it's a better transition. The path of Tess's death, I will say, is better in this than it is in the game. Because in a game, you have a scene. In a show, you have like 10 minutes. And you can do a lot in 10 minutes. And Tess's death in the game, not in the game, but Tess's death in the show is brilliant. It is hitting on the notes. It's in the same location. She's saying roughly, versions of different takes of the lines from the games and all from the game and all that. And it's hitting all the same beats. But there's more sense of agency. And it could easily be like knowing it's not the military that's chasing them. It's more affected. There's a whole, swarm of them. It's like every affected in bosses heading towards them. And so you have the clock is more ticking. The clock is more ancient. The clock is more, willing, and it's more simply the clock is ticking, and it just works in every level of it. It's like a fantastic scene. Even lines like this is fucking real, when she says this, finding out that Ellie is immune. It's the whole thing of like, is she immune? Is she not? Is Ellie just full of it? Is she not? Like, what's going on? And Tessa's like, it's real. This is fucking real, Joel. I'm getting bitten. It's getting worse. And look at this. It's healed, and it's like it's more like a stab wound than this weird infection. So it's a really fantastic scene. Even though the ending's weird, I felt like you could easily cut that ending out, and because I felt that ending was a little bit too much with the whole like I get you want to do the mirror reflection, right, of if she doesn't do this, Joe and Ellie are going to die more likely, and 2, this is what she's going to become. So having like a affected is kind of half, like it's in that transition phase of like you're a oneer, but you're also going to become a clicker because it's like half of the mushroom head. She's looking and she's terrified. There's this, it's looking at her, way at her, and I'm like, this is good. This is a really well done scene, and it's done very beautifully. The cinematography in this, there's a very digital sense of it, but the cinematography for this entire episode is fantastic. Definitely has like the colors of the games. Where it's like, this death is destruction and fungus zombies around, but you know, the environments can still be as beautiful as it can be. It doesn't need to be down and gritty unless it has to be. You know what I mean? But back again, Tess is looking at this, you know, the affected, and the affected goes and kisses her. This does a good you know, acts like a teenager going for their first kisses. Like it's like a open mouth, like, you know, open mouth kiss. And I'm like, the fuck? And yes, it's gross because the idea of fungus is, you know, swimming around in your mouth. Yeah, it's gross. But I'm like, okay, this is way too much. Just get the liar, blow the tapestry up, and you know, say, you know, Joe and Ellie, do that please, because whoo, I felt like, okay, that's a little bit too much for me. Not in a, just it felt a little bit too over the top personally for me, right? But next week we are going to meet Bill. We're going to meet, well, I have already met Bill, but this version of Bill, we're going to meet Frank, which are a character that even gamers haven't met fully. Because all he was a power of dangling legs. But yeah, this is a really well intenseful episode, and that's the best way to describe it, intense. And I love Joe Ellie's, you know, a rivalry and friendship already, and all that. So yeah, next week we're gonna be meeting Frank. And Bill, and, you know, Bill as well.